We are now making our way onto the Avenue of the Sphinx. Now there's 3 different types of sphinx. As we pointed out before, you have the Andro Sphinx, which are the sphinx that we're looking at here, which have the body of a lion and the face of a man. It's thought to be depicting Nectanebo from the last indigenous dynasty, the 30th dynasty. And there you can see his cartouche, Nectanebo, Nectanebo. The other 2 types of sphinxes are the lion body with the ram head, which is called a Creo-sphinx. And then we have the full body ram sphinx, which is ram head, ram body. Now in my forthcoming book on the Esoteric Symbolist Guide to the Luxor Temple of Man, I have a small section in there talking about the symbolism of the sphinxes and what's being represented symbolically through the 3 phases of sphinx. So today we are walking the Avenue of the Sphinx, the entire length from the Luxor Temple just behind me to Karnak. You can see along the way here there are several signs. We have some signage showing some of the excavations that took place in the 1940s, 50s, up to 1960. And then you'll notice some of the sphinxes here. What's happening is, you know, most of the full head, full body sphinxes are this way. And now we have a lack of that, just the plinths, the platforms that they rest on. Here's some more signage from 1958 to 1960, the excavations that took place. And just up ahead we have one of the replica barks that would have carried the statues of the nature, the gods. And that's why they call this avenue the road or path of the gods. Wat Nether, or should be Wat Netcher or Wat Netcheru, which is road, ancient word for road of the gods. Also known as El Kabash Road, road of the ram or the sphinx. Over here we have some of these circular depressions which look like basins. Oh yeah, flower beds and basins. Picture from 2021. So these were flower beds and basins right here. And so all along here, this was all part of the Roman encampment that surrounded all of the Luxor temple. They had wine presses and workshops. So you can imagine the priests carrying this as part of the Opet festival procession. You have another one of these at Karnak. Well, the others are all at Karnak. And over here to the left, we have a little cafeteria. So if you get thirsty along the way, or you get tired, you can rest at the cafeteria. That's one. There should be several more up along the way. Now, my first time on the Avenue of the Sphinx was during an intensive study trip with John Anthony West. This was many years ago. He would have a unique way of approaching the Luxor temple. We would actually come in off the bus. He would tell us to keep our head down and look to the right, not looking at the pylon, have us walk up. We'd only walk up a portion of the way, just about to where the Sphinxes end. Then he'd have us turn around and proceed slowly, quietly, and ceremonially and make our way to the Luxor temple, which would give you the effect of what it's like to walk through all the Sphinxes at night while the temple's lit up. But just walking in between the repetitive statuary evokes a certain response. It has an impact on human consciousness and therefore can affect us physiologically as well. And of course, it may stir something emotionally, and it really has sort of a hypnotic, trance-inducing effect on the human condition. Here's a couple more Sphinx, more basins. Let's get a close-up. Looks like this guy's missing some of his nose. A lot of these are not restored fully. This has been part of a big ongoing project, although they've pretty much finished up most of it, but I think there's still more. They haven't. Looks like a piece of pottery here. Couple more Sphinx on this side. So yeah, here is a sign talking about the Greco-roman settlements that I mentioned earlier. And you can see the remains from the Roman occupation in Egypt. Built right around the Avenue of the Sphinx. And as you can see here, many of the Sphinx now are missing. There's one coming up on our left. So yeah, my first time on the Avenue of the Sphinx was with John Anthony West over 10 years ago. And then they closed the Avenue for quite some time to work on this project. But it's never been open all the way from Luxor to Karnak, you know, for a very long time, at least since I've been coming to Egypt for decades. You wouldn't be able to walk the length. You'd only be able to walk up a portion of it. Now, for the first time, they've opened up the Avenue of the Sphinx, making it available for tourists to traverse from temple to temple. You have to purchase, I came in through the Luxor temple, so you have to purchase a ticket to get into the temple first. And then we're gonna walk all the way to the end. There will be another ticket entrance where we have to purchase a second ticket if we want to continue on the Avenue of the Sphinx to enter Karnak. And just before we get to the gates of Karnak, there's an intersecting road where the avenue branches off in two different directions, one going toward the Precinct of Mut, the other Kansu and the Opet festival, the Opet Hall. And I'll show you all of this if you stick with us for the whole journey. If you're new to this channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button now for more unique and interesting content like this. And of course, if you enjoy the video, please do give it a like. Please consider sharing the video with your friends, as I am trying to grow the YouTube channel. And feel free to leave a comment below. Let us know if you see anything along the way on the Avenue of the Sphinxes in the comments. I'll try to address as many as I can. Maybe some of your questions will be the topic of a future video. Here's another rest area. So this is the second one now. No frills here. The first one is a cafe where you can have drinks and food. This is just a place to sit down. So the second rest area. And then here's some signage over here depicting the Opet festival, which, yeah, this just looks like the reliefs that we find on the wall at Luxor. That's what this is. This is when you go inside the Luxor temple, inside the colonnade, on the east and west, well, actually all the walls, you can see depictions of the Opet festival, and that's what they're showing you here. It's comprised of priests, musicians, soldiers. And then here's an example. This is interesting. They set it up thematically. So this is what we see at Karnak. Now, the oldest depictions of the Opet festival are those depicted on Hatshepsut's chapel at Karnak, the red chapel. That's what we see here. And then over here, they're just showing you the procession with all the different people. Again, priests, musicians, soldiers. And then over here is the depiction we see at Luxor. So this is thematically done because the Opet festival would start at Karnak. It would travel along the avenue here to the temple of Luxor. Although it was done different in time, it was done differently throughout time. The oldest depictions we have of the Opet festival are at, again, the chapel consecrated to Hatshepsut at Karnak, which are these images here. But it changes. And so originally, they would have carried everything from Karnak all the way to Luxor temple, and then they would have entered from the side, not straight through the pylons. The pylons may have probably been reserved for the festival of Min, which was something different. That isn't the way they would have entered. They would have come around through the other side. So originally it was done on foot. Everything would have been carried, the statuary and the whole procession would have been done on foot, marching from Karnak to Luxor. The festival would take place, and then they would come back. And this is all depicted on the colonnade, on the west colonnade of the Luxor temple. You see it starting from the Karnak temple and going all the way to Luxor. And then on the east side of the temple, it's depicting the return back from Luxor to Karnak. So it completes a full cycle, reviving the king, the kingship, and revivifying his ka. Essentially, the king's ka was the royal ka. We all have a ka. It comes, become equipped with one at birth. With our very first breath, the first vital life force, first breath we take in fuses with us the ka, which is our spiritual double, if you will. And so the royal ka is something that continued throughout the royal lineage from king to king. And so this was a way of, you know, re-establishing the ka as well as the king's reign over Egypt, and also a way, sort of an intermediary discipline where the king would basically be able to create prosperity for Egypt by connecting with the divine. What I want to show you here is, this is interesting because you have these structures that were built on top of, this is one of the sphinxes. You can see these are the plinths or the platforms for the sphinx. This is the remains of one right here. You have the two legs, but the body's missing, the head's missing, and this building was built right over it. I think this might have been, is this the church? I think there was a church, yeah, or a mosque. I think this is the church, the backside. But this, here's another rest area. This is our second rest area now. And so, a third rest area actually, cafe, and then two rest areas. Oh, this says cafeteria as well, this sign, but as you can see, there's no cafeteria here. I don't know if they took that down for Ramadan. It's currently Ramadan, so the local population is fasting. And so I don't know if that's why, or if maybe it's just not enough for people traversing the Avenue of the Sphinx to keep this other cafe open. But so far we've had a cafe, a rest area, and a second rest area with a closed cafe. Over here, again, showing more depictions of the Opet festival. And so yeah, my first trip was with John Anthony West, and I didn't do the entire length. I've come here to film, but the first time I put this project together, for whatever reason, I lost the footage when I got back. I accidentally deleted it somehow, couldn't get it back. And that was my first trip, my first journey on the Avenue of the Sphinx. But that was basically a few days ago. But I wanted to get the footage for you, so I came back so you could still see what I'm seeing as I'm seeing it. Now, not the first time. Now this would actually, this is part of that experience, but this is me coming back to get the footage for you because I didn't want you to miss out. So look, you can see all the Egyptian hieroglyphs in the wall here. This one appears to be upside down. We have an Ankh and a wasp scepter. Wasp, and then here are more sphinxes, and you can see how structures were built right over the Sphinx, almost lost to time. And so there are actually houses that were built here. At one time there was actually a settlement, dwelling. People lost their homes because the government wanted to basically tear down these buildings to preserve the archaeological integrity. Unfortunately, people lost their homes, but what we did gain is the heritage, the historical heritage. Here we have the wine press, an open air museum. So let's go check this out. wine press, Roman period. The wine press is made up of a basin where the grapes are pressed, a filter, and an underground room to store wine. It also has ovens. So you can see there's a hole over there, probably leading to the underground room. So this Roman period wine press covered up the Sphinx. They were the first to stop building over the Sphinx, and then that tradition just continued over time. If you do want to learn more about the Luxor Temple, I'm almost finished with a project. My forthcoming book is going to be an esoteric symbolist guidebook to the Luxor Temple of Man. It's going to be a very comprehensive esoteric guidebook to the Luxor Temple of Man. And so it'll really introduce the reader to the symbolist approach, add some of my own insights as well. In fact, if you're watching this, the book may already be out at the time you're viewing this video, depending on when you're watching the video. So more depictions of the Opet festival. I'm gonna head back now. It appears we have a bridge here. We have to go under the bridge. To learn more about my book and forthcoming books, you can go to anyextee.com. That's ANYEXTEE.com. You can get on my email list there, which will keep you updated on all projects such as the book. If you're interested in joining me in Egypt for an esoteric tour of Egypt, you can visit ADEPTexpeditions.com. There you'll find all of our tours that are available. Okay, so that was the wine press and the open air museum. Now we're gonna continue down the road on the Avenue of the Sphinx. Wat Nether, or Wat Neteru, because it would be, you know, I see in the press everyone's referring to as Nather, N-A-T-H-A-R-E-R, when the news broke about the opening of the Avenue of the Sphinx. But Nather, that doesn't add up, because if it was the path of the gods, and it's called the path of the gods because this is the path that the gods would traverse on during the Opet festival, the gods being the statuary, the statues were thought to have been imbued with the essence of the gods. And so God would be Neter, N-T-R, or N-E-T-E-R, and multiple gods would be Neteru, or two gods would be Neteri, but since there were three, because you have Amun, Mut, and Khonsu, it would be Neteru. Here we have another Sphinx. This one's missing the mouth. You can imagine all the work that went into the excavation just to preserve the statuary. Hello, Sayek, Ramadan Kareem. Piece of sugar, sugar. So this is sugar cane. Locals will, well, anybody can bite into that, and you have sugar juice, which is good on a hot day like this. When I first came here, it wasn't quite as hot. Today, the temperature is rising. We're getting near the end of Ramadan, only 4, maybe 5 more days left. Okay, so here's another rest area. This would constitute as the 4th rest area. Still a way to go on the Avenue of the Sphinx. Wat Neter, Wat Neteru, El Kabash Road, Kabash. Here it looks like the remains of just the bottom portion of the Sphinx. Another one on the other side, and then it looks like we have another full Andro Sphinx. So I'm most interested in getting to the end to check out the Ram Sphinx. The first time that I've seen them was when I was first attempting to record this video before I lost the footage. First time I tried to make this video for you a few days back, and it was a sight to see because that was the first time I've ever seen a full body ram head, ram body Sphinx, which would be the oldest of the remaining Sphinx that we see here, because that would be attributed, the ram of course is a symbol of our moon, which R.A. de Lubitz takes to be processional. The ingress, the coming of Aries. Another sign over here from the 2017 to 2021 excavation when they worked on this part. This again was all closed. You could not come this far until just a few months ago. They recently opened it up for the public. The week before we moved here, actually. So let's see, we moved I think the first week of January. I think like the week before that, maybe at the end of last year or the beginning of this year. We had just missed it. We had the big celebration, and then we moved to Luxor the week after. And so, of course, once again, they're celebrating the opening of the Avenue of the Sphinx, which now gives access from Luxor to Karnak to tourists that are interested in traversing this path. Again, as I was mentioning earlier, the Opet festival, it would originally come from Karnak to Luxor on foot and then return by boat, return on the Nile. But in later times, that changed. They would do it all on the Nile, although there would still probably likely be a procession on land. I mean, there had to be a procession on land as well. I've also read that this was once a canal, although I found that on a reliable website, but I haven't found it in the academic literature yet. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just haven't gone through all the primary sources to verify it, but this was supposed to be an ancient canal itself. At one point, this was supposedly a canal, and then they paved it over to create this avenue. Now, this is attributed to, the Sphinxes are attributed to Nectanebo. Here, let's go check out this wine press. But we know that this procession has been going on since at least the time of Hatshepsut, and it has its roots in the very ancient world. Here we have more wine factories and stores. Let's see, Roman period. The wine press is made up of a basin where the grapes are pressed, a filter, an underground room to store wine. Same signage as before. It almost looks like a hetep, like the offering symbol, but it's also appears to be like a water channel, well, probably for the wine to drip down. A water basin, wine basin. Yeah, and underground, that's where it would have been stored. So it would have been probably pressed up there, filtered through, pressed, filtered through, and then stored below. Let's see. Roman period. The bathhouse is a rectangular building with 3 washing basins. Each basin has 3 steps leading to it. The pipelines to draw water are made up of necks of pottery jars. Huh. And continue on our path here, making way along the Avenue of the Sphinx. There appears to be a gate up ahead where it appears as if it's closed, and then we have the bridge just up ahead. But what we're going to do is turn left to this ticket office, and in order to continue, we'll have to purchase a ticket to enter Karnak. Sphinx Avenue, 30 Dynasty. The route dedicated to the Opet festival is lined with 2 rows of sphinxes with a body lion, head of a human, date back to the reign of King Nectanebo I. And then you can see over here, so we just got our ticket. So again, as you can see here, visitors 200 Egyptian, if you're a student 100, camera tripod 20. This gives us a ticket to enter Karnak. Rest area over here. This face looks a little different from the others. No cartouche. Back on the ancient path. We know that Cleopatra once traversed this road. It's Mark Antony, likely, because we found her cartouche carved into one of the Sphinx artifacts here. So it's likely that she walked this very same path. We're now going under the bridge. Camera up here. We're watching them watching us. Say bye-bye to the birdie in the sky, the all-seeing eye, and continue on our way. Looks like we have some more travelers up ahead. First group of travelers that we've seen. Hello. And you can see the pylon of Karnak in the distance up ahead. Still a ways to go. Right over there. Path isn't as clear over here. A lot of vegetation growing. We have another rest area right here. And then it looks like another rest area just up ahead. So plenty of rest areas along the way if you get tired and want to sit down. But for the more intrepid traveler, those with more stamina, we can just walk the entire length. And that's what we're going to do today to give you the full experience. So you're seeing what I'm seeing as I'm seeing it. And what we're seeing now in the distance here, 2 more signs for the Sphinx Avenue excavations that took place in 2017, 2018. And right over here is the ancient Nilometer. Nilometer were essentially like pools of water that used Nile water to take measurements, Nilometer, take measurements to determine taxes from the flood season. By the amount of inundation, they could see, you know, they could determine how much crop that could be grown, and then therefore realize how much money they would be owed in taxes. 25th dynasty, the Nilometer is a round well built of sandstone blocks with a staircase inside it. It was used to measure the Nile's level during different seasons of the year. Yeah, so at different seasons they would use it as opposed to just inundation, like I said earlier. But you get stairs. These look like modern stairs right here that would take you down, and then those are the ancient stairs into the Nilometer. Wouldn't want to swim in that water. This is a cool sign over here of the excavations that took place in 2017, 2021. You can see a giant ram head. That's what we're coming to look for, the ram head, ram body sphinx. Very cool. Get back on our path here. So if you decide to come here during the warmer months, definitely be sure to bring liquids with you. Stay hydrated. It's easy to get dehydrated. Unfortunately, I already finished my bottle of water. I had to come from the village on the west side where I live in Beirut to cross the water and walk to the Luxor temple, and I already finished my bottle of water before getting to the temple, but I could use another one. So the next option is going to be at the Luxor temple. There's a cafe near the sacred lake, or in front of the temple there's a bunch of shops that offer beverages, or just outside the museum there's a few shops. So I'm just gonna have to wait and work my way through Karnak before I can get a drink, but I'm already starting to feel a little dehydrated. However, we're gonna push through to get you this footage. Over here is another rest area, and you can see a lot of these homes. I've been on horse carriage rides with some of the people that used to have homes here in this area that were destroyed in order for the excavations to take place. And so it's really unfortunate that they had to lose their home. But again, as I said earlier, I guess the upshot of that is we have this amazing historical archaeological preservation. And we get to walk the length thematically and get a sense for what it would feel like to be one of the priests in the ancient procession. Over here, one more rest area. I'm going to come back and do another video at night coming from Karnak to Luxor, which would have been the way there. This, of course, would have been the route back. That will be more of a conceptual video to really give you a sense of what it was like at night with the lights. During my first filming the other day, I came here to try to find those ram-headed, ram-body sphinxes for the research part of my book. So you can see this is where the temple splits. I'm sorry, this is where the path splits, not the temple. On our way to the temple, we have the Temple of Mut to the right, the 10th pylon, or we can go to the Temple of Khonsu. So we're gonna start over here by first going to the right, check out the Precinct of Mut, which is gonna be closed to the general visitor, but it'll give you a sense of what it's like to walk this part of the avenue of the Sphinx. So we've now come to the length. This is the whole avenue here, and then you can either turn left, Shamal in Arabic, or you can turn right, Yamin in Arabic, and now we're gonna go straight, Alatul in Arabic. It's good to know directions when you come to Egypt. I mean, you'll always find, here's all the other sphinxes. Again, this is all the work of Nectanebo, 30th dynasty. It's good to know some basic Arabic words, specifically directions, if you're gonna not come with a tour group where, you know, everything is real insulated and you have a driver and people helping you throughout the way. But if you did come here on your own and you needed to get a taxi or tuk-tuk, and you know, you're always going to find people who speak English. There's always somebody within a couple of minutes that could help. For the most part, many of the local Egyptians speak English. The economy is driven on tourism, so they learn from an early age. But if you have a fully Arabic speaking driver, it's good to know basic words like Shamel, Yamin, Atul, left, right, straight, so you can give directions. The other words you want to learn are la, which means no, Khalas, which means enough or stop. And this is for the aggressive vendors that will relentlessly try to get you to buy product at some of the sites. Not as bad in Luxor as it is in Cairo, like say Giza. And then the West Bank is a lot more laid back compared to the East Bank here in Luxor. It's more of those basins and sphinxes. And if La'a and Khalas doesn't work, you can always try Imshi, which basically means to go away, but it's kind of a negative. Really don't want to use that. You could also use Fokak Mini, which basically means, like, loosely translates in English to like, let me be free, let me go. And that's a very Egyptian word. Everybody, you know, a lot of tourists will come here and they'll know La'a, and the vendors will play games. They'll say, why La'a? But if you say Fokak Mini, then they know you're Egyptian, in the sense that you know somebody that's Egyptian, or you have Egyptian family, and they'll realize that you already know the system, and they'll either laugh or let you go. So 30th dynasty, it consists of a sandstone paved road bordered by 2 rows of sphinxes with a body of a lion and the head of a man. It was built by King Nectanebo. So from all the way down here and to the left, this was all the work of Nectanebo leading to Luxor in terms of the sphinxes. Over here, we have the Precinct of Mut, which again will be closed. Sayek, hello. Ramadan Kareem.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. This is all the Precinct of Mut, which is closed. Take it. Karnak. Yeah. Yeah, Mut, but Avenue of the Sphinx.
Yeah, no, the more ticket here.
Oh, okay. Shukran.
You need to look here?
La, shukran. So that's the Precinct of Mut, and then that's Karnak Temple. So this is the end of the Avenue of the Sphinx. You see the sign here. You see the sign here, the Great Processional Way. This is the 18th dynasty. It consists of a sandstone paved road bordered by 2 rows of sphinx with a body of a lion and the head of a ram, as opposed to the head of a man like we've been seeing. This is known as the Creo Sphinx. The sphinxes carry different royal names, including those of King Tut, Tutankhamun, Horemheb, in addition to the restoration text of High Priest Hathor. So this is where you would have all of the Creo Sphinx, the ram head, lion body sphinxes that would align from the 10th pylon all the way to the Temple of Mut, the Mut precinct. But if we go back this way, this is all the work of Nectanebo. Nectanebo takes a left, but if we go and take a right and continue, we'll go to the Temple of Khonsu and the Opet Hall. The security guard was just asking to see my ticket to Karnak, because we're at the gate of the Precinct of Mut, which is a separate ticket. I think it's currently closed though, apparently. And so he was just questioning why I was there. And we let him know that we're just traversing the Avenue of the Sphinx. Everything is cool, Mashi. Mashi in Arabic. Mash. It's like cool or okay. Everything is agreeable. If you are still with us and you're enjoying this journey, and if you enjoy the content I'm putting out on this channel, please do consider supporting the channel and my work by contributing to Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Anyextee. That's ANYEXTEE. You'll find a link in the description down below. I mean, for the price of a cup of coffee a month, it would really help me, you know, go a long way. If a majority of my subscribers contributed even $1, you know, it would really help me out a lot. I do have a family to feed. I have a wife who has a health compromised condition, a disability, and then I have a daughter. So on top of that, you know, I'm really passionate about this work, making these videos, and I do have a wide array of skills. So I'm constantly working for clients, doing various gigs for clients to support my family, but I'm really trying to make this YouTube channel sustainable. Not quite there yet, and so the only way to do that is to supplement it via Patreon. So if you appreciate the value I'm giving you, you can always give value back in that way. This says 30th Dynasty consists of a sandstone paved road bordered by 2 rows of sphinxes with the body of a lion, the head of a man. It was built by Nectanebo I. So that's here going toward Luxor, and now we're going to walk up to Karnak temple. We're actually in the Karnak temple complex already. Precinct of Mut is actually part of Karnak. The security guard was telling me, no, your ticket is for Karnak. Well, this is technically all Karnak, but he's not an Egyptologist, so we can't expect him to know all the historical aspects. His job is just to guard the precinct. And here's a nice overview of the Temple of Karnak from 1964. Image of Karnak in 1914. It's a really cool vintage images. And now we're approaching the pylon, and we're approaching the ram-headed, ram-body sphinxes. The full ram sphinx attributed to Amenhotep. Amenhotep III would have installed these. Although it's possible, it's a bit of a mystery, but it's possible that Hatshepsut before him, you know, he actually emulated Hatshepsut in many ways with his divine birth and using Tutmosid artwork. What's this say? The Avenue of the Sphinx, 18th Dynasty. The route dedicated to the Opet festival is lined with ram-headed statues sculptured to date back to the reign of King Amenhotep III, 1390, 1352 BC. In front of the entrance, a Khonsu temple, the god of the moon. So yeah, that's going that way. But we walked from here all the way along the avenue, and now we're right about here. We're about to go in. So these are the ram body sphinxes, and you can see there's only, let's see if we can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7. Some of them still have a neck, but maybe 7 of the heads are retained. You can see the ram bodies. I'll do a close-up as we get a little closer to the temple. It looks like their priority was to restore the ones that are closest to the pylon. Same with the others in Karnak. But yeah, as I was saying, I haven't quite reached my goal on Patreon yet, so I could certainly use your support to help make this more sustainable. That will enable me to put out videos more frequently, because then I could take on less client work and focus more on editing the content that I have for you guys. So here are two ram head, ram body sphinxes. Really impressive. You see the detail there, the back of the head of the ram, and they're on top of this plinth. And we have hieroglyphs on the bottom. What's that say? Life, the two ladies, the two lands, Sa, Min, E. Note the ram horns pointing down. I go in deeper into the symbolism in my book, Esoteric Symbolist Guidebook to the Luxor Temple of Man, which is essentially a manual for how to experience the symbolist, use the symbolist approach at the Luxor Temple. Okay, here's a piece of a ram head. This might be the one we saw on that signage. Oh, it looks like it's the top of this head has been severed in two, and then we have the top part of the head right here. Amazing. Remains of another head over here. Not so much on this side. Just to give you an example of lost history, you know, look at all the inscriptions. All the inscriptions that were buried in there. More over here. Which will give us textual clues to the ancient past, but we can't see when they're buried underground. Here, one more ram head, ram body sphinx. And we have the massive pylon. Not the pylon, but, well, yeah. There's the pylon. We also have, this is amazing. Still retains a lot of the original color. Ramadan Kareem. So here you have the two pieces of the two other barks. Here's the temple, chapel of Opet, temple of Opet, and then the Khonsu temple. Temple of Khonsu. More ram body sphinxes leading right up to the edge of Khonsu. La shukran. Later, inshallah. So thus ends our journey walking the entire length of the Avenue of the Sphinxes. And so this is where we're going to end it now. for YouTubers, but I'm going to continue keeping the footage going and take you all the way over to Hatshepsut's shrine, where you can see the oldest examples of the Opet festival, but only if you are subscribed to Patreon. So Patreon subscribers can watch the whole video without commercial interruption on Patreon and get this exclusive bonus footage, seeing some of these lesser observed locations at Karnak. But for everybody that watched on YouTube, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more videos like this one. All right, Patreon supporters, let's get to it.